Van Life Theology, theology that goes places. If you have heard the term deconstruction, deconstructionism, or anything of the like, this video is for you. I want to talk about this concept of deconstructionism in the Western Church today. And actually, we don't do the term justice when we think it's just about the Christian evangelical church. It actually applies to a variety of religious groups here in the United States, and a variety of people, not just one generation, but a variety of people who are really deconstructing what they have believed for a long time and what they've been told by the system. And I love it. I love it so much. I love taking truth to power. I think it's phenomenal. I also love digging through the hype, digging through the Kool-Aid, digging through the marketing to figure out what's truly happening, what's actually happening, and what is actually believable within whatever your sector is, whether it's religious, political, scientific. If you take the time to find the truth, then the truth will help find you. And that's phenomenal. But as for this term deconstructionism, from a religious perspective, that's what I want to talk about today. I definitely would classify myself as someone who went on a journey of deconstructionism from about 2020 to right now, 2023. And I think the biggest thing that I learned in this space was that it is actually super valuable, but it's really important to not do it alone. And I think that that is a huge element to this piece, is about not doing this process alone. My deconstructionism started in 2020 when my life started to fall apart. For extenuating reasons, my brother that I love dearly, he got involved in drug usage, really intense fentanyl addiction. And he ended up passing away and moving to heaven in 2021. And that whole thing really threw my Western religious, these are the 10 commandments and this is what we do, kosher eating self through a loop. Hardcore. And I had actually been really serious about my faith since the time I was about 6 or 7, like really serious. I am your stereotypical church kid, and we spent most of the time sitting in adult church. I've spent like a fifth of the time in my church experience in kids church, and part of that fifth was actually serving, not even participating. So I've hardcore. I am the church of the church. Like, this is my culture. This is my people. And so when my life started to fall apart because what I believed wasn't working out anymore, I really started tripping. I started tripping hard, and it was so intense. And there were two big moments for me that really made, within the process of my brother, really struggling with this addiction and then passing away, there was two big moments for me that really changed things. Early in 2020, so we had just gone through another super intense weekend as a family, and this dog that my dad super loved, it was brand new, like he'd spent like $5,000 on it, then he'd spent another $5,000 when it broke its leg, like he was like really loving this dog. Well, it got suddenly killed in a car accident, just like it was done. It jumped out of the back of his pickup truck, out of the window in the cab, and it was killed instantly. And I had this one day this month to go down and visit my family and try to have a decent Saturday with them, and then I was back up to college, and the whole day was just trash. It was so horrible and painful, and we were all just like in this stuck, emotionally repressed state about some stuff with the rest of the family, and it just made it worse. It made worse on worse. And I felt like nothing could ever go right. I felt like we were trying so hard, and this was even towards the beginning of the process. This wasn't even as bad as it was. And I was like, wow, this is really crazy that nothing can go right. And actually, this is 2019. This is 2019 this happened. I remember coming back up to Berea, California, from where I was with my family. I came back up to Berea. I was doing a ministry internship at the time, and I was staying in the room of this lady's house by myself. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to fast food for 5 days, and I want to see something shift. And so from the Sunday night to all the way till Saturday morning, I fasted food. I did just water, and then about halfway through the week I was like, grape juice, cuz I'm dying. But I made it, and I was praying, and I was reading my Bible, and I had this amazing time with the Lord on the last day. And I read through all these Psalms, declaring them over my family, and I felt so settled, like, surely something is going to shift. Surely this is going to get better. And it's crazy because in the moment, I didn't see anything get better. But it felt so real. And at the end of my time on that last day of just like sitting with the Lord, I felt like the only thing I heard from God was, don't make your family an idol. And I was like, that can't be real, what I've heard. And like, that can't be really what like the Lord had to say after I just like set all this time aside to fast and to pray and to like intercede, like what's happening. And so I kind of wrote it off. I was like, that can't be it. And I was like, all right, whatever. And nothing got better. The whole, like, everything just kept getting worse after that. And throughout the process of things getting tragically worse, I just got angrier and angrier. And I was more frustrated and confused, way more confused. And, yeah, it was really hard. It was such a struggle. And because I had been adamant, I'd been serious about fasting. I'd been our family for my whole life. And I was very serious about tithing, and I was serious about my Bible, and serious about, Christian music, and serious about not drinking at that point. And I was so serious about like so many things, and about the movies and the shows I watched, and so serious about the truth and just all this different stuff. And I'm like, why is this happening? And after my brother moved to heaven in 2021, I was driving down the highway a couple months later, and I was still just bawling my eyes out at one point. And I was driving up the 5 north, and I finally said out loud, I was like, God, I did everything you asked, and he's still gone. And it just hit me. It hit me so intensely that I viewed my relationship with the Lord as a exchange of goods so intensely. If I do the right things, you'll keep me safe from every bad thing that I'm afraid of. And when I realized that that's true, that was truly the heart, and since then the Lord showed me that there was an element to my walk with him that really was a love we both had, like a love that I really truly had for God as himself. And it wasn't all, it wasn't all this works-based, performance-oriented, earning my safety. It wasn't all this fire insurance perspective. But there was a huge element to my life that I thought that if I just did all the right things, that then all the right things would happen to me. And once I realized that really was the catalyst for me being in this space of deconstructionism, and being in the space of, okay, well, that's not true, because it's not true. It's not experientially true. It's not logically true. It's not theologically accurate. And I was like, oh my gosh, what else do I believe that isn't true? And so from that point on, every time something would come up that would be the old way of doing something, I'd be like, okay, but is this true or not? And it was this thing of really taking apart bit by bit what I had believed, but then also taking the time to put it back together. And I really want to encourage you, if you are someone who is in deconstructionism, or if you are someone who is in the process of deconstructing their faith, or you're in the process of trying to do discipleship with people who are deconstructing their faith, I really want to encourage you that these people need the time and the space and the relational safety to tear things down, to heal, and to rebuild. And so often we want to skip that step of healing. And I really have come to value that inner space of healing, of tearing something down, understanding what that is, taking the time to rest and heal. And when you are ready, there is a part of you that will want to rebuild. Let that curiosity, that relational connection with God, be stirred out of getting yourself around good things. Like, there's an element to this process that is about like, hey, you need to stay around people who are joyful and who value beauty and who value creation, and these just gorgeous sunsets. Like, it's as important as it is to read good authors when you're deconstructing your faith, it is equally important to go stand in front of a good sunset at least a couple times a week, because that'll keep you in perspective. It's really tempting for us, especially in a Western society, to get wrapped up in this analytical space of like black and white and gray, or yes and no, or now it's really mostly just us versus them, and them versus them, and them versus them, and us versus them, and all of us against each other, and whose camp is right. And it's really important for us to remember that we are not just a brain. We are not just a logic center. That there are so many elements to the human existence, and that we're a heart and a mind and a body, and that sometimes you really do just need a meal and a nap. Sometimes you need some protein. Sometimes you need some sunlight. Sometimes you need a nap. Sometimes you need to see something beautiful. Sometimes you need someone to sit down with you who is more prepared to love you than you are to love yourself. And understanding that those are all valid things is a huge part to being able to build a true sense of faith. I also want to encourage you, if you're someone who has participated in or is currently working through deconstructing their faith, there's a couple things that I've found that can be really triggering that I want to walk through. The first is when people say the phrase, like, Jesus is everything. Like, if you just have enough Jesus, like, everything will be fixed. And I want to say, I think that might not be absolutely true. I think you can invite Jesus into everything, but I think we were meant to be good stewards of the bodies in the world we have. And by understanding how your personal body works, whether it's the different things that work for you food-wise or health-wise or vitamin-wise, or understanding your own sleep schedule, understanding your own, like, the rhythm of your life is really important, and bringing Jesus into that is important. I think it's also really good and important to have an understanding of emotional health and emotional rhythms and emotional intelligence and relational skills. Like, Jesus is everything, but you can learn how to communicate. Like, it truly is bringing him into everything, but we've been told this for so long. And that's not to say that Jesus, I don't want to take away from the belief and the safety and the truth that there is that you can always lean into Jesus. That is really true. And there is an element to a walk with the Lord and a maturity that says I can abandon all of my comforts for following Jesus. But I think there's a difference between comforts and good, healthy emotional needs. And I don't think we can be expected to jump into this space of I'll abandon everything for God immediately every time. Because some of us need the space to grow a sense of trust. To grow a sense of trust between us and ourselves, between us and other people, between us and God. And I don't think that that's been thoroughly communicated in the world and in church, and we have all these absolute statements that aren't really serving our discipleship or growth process very well, and it's time for us to kind of let those things go. So I want to encourage you, if you are somebody who feels like that phrase, like Jesus is everything, is triggering, it is okay. It is okay to have Jesus and a therapist, Jesus and to understand nutrition, and Jesus and understand rest and emotional rhythms, Jesus. And I read a book about sleep that was really impactful in my journey, and by a totally non-Christian PhD guy, and it was a brilliant book, and his research was phenomenal. It's okay to have those things. You are not betraying your faith. You're not less of a Christian. You're doing just fine of a job in your own process. It's okay. The second triggering phrase can be, you just need to trust God. Everything's going to be okay. And I think there's an element of faith to that, and I think people mean to say it really with how are well-meaning when they say it. However, if you are someone who is in the middle of specifically tearing down beliefs or experiencing and uncovering ways that you have been lied to, it is okay for you to not be able to just jump into a blind sense of trust. It is totally okay. I think it's really important to bring your process to God. Bring your process to him, be like, hey God, I recognize that this is an area I should trust you with, but I don't trust you with it right now. And I need you to help me build this trust with you. And ask God for the miracles, ask God for the space to build trust. And let's have that compassion for each other. Like, hey man, I need a new job that's really amazing and pays my bills, otherwise I'm gonna lose my apartment. And I need God, I need help getting a new job. And someone's like, oh my gosh, you should just pray about it. God will provide. It's like, okay, well, I'm struggling to believe things right now. That's not helpful, and being able to receive each other well and believe for each other and hold each other's weaknesses and authenticity in a space of compassion and love, and not in condemnation. It's not a space of condemnation if you're having trouble believing. It's totally okay. And sometimes things take time. It's about embracing your process and asking Jesus, like, hey, Jesus, I see you're asking me to trust you with this thing, and I'm really struggling with that right now. Will you help me to trust you? And just wait. And sometimes it'll take longer, sometimes it'll take shorter, but the important part is you'll have authentically grown. Your true self will continue to improve and get better. It will actually build your faith to participate in that process, instead of just like faking it or lying or, being angry in general. It'll be so much better to just authentically present to God what you truly can handle, what level of trust you can truly handle and not handle at the same time. So I want to encourage you, if you're someone who's in the middle of deconstructing their faith or their religion or whatever it is, you are so not alone. Your process is so valuable, and I really want to encourage you to lean into community. Just have fun with people. Enjoy the beauty in nature. Don't let the anxious thoughts take over too much. This is a valuable process, whatever it looks like for you, and invite God into that process. Invite him in to show up, to be miraculous, because he wants to respond. He wants to show himself faithful, and he wants real relationship with our real true self. That doesn't scare him at all. So, have a great day.